Sam is a member of Trinity Baptist Church, and after graduation he plans to attend Midlands Technical College to become a physical therapy assistant, and then attend the University of South Carolina to become a physical therapist. Abriana will graduate with honors with a GPA of 4.538. She's a member of the Beta Club at the National Honor Society and has participated in many fundraisers with both clubs. While attending Pine Ridge and Airport, Abriana was named the Murtis Walker Scholar, earned a B-27 award, and was a junior marshal. She played a junior varsity and varsity volleyball, and she was awarded Most Improved when playing varsity softball. Abriana played junior varsity basketball during her freshman year and varsity basketball for 3 years, receiving the Coach's Award, Best Offense, Most Valuable Player, and was named an All-Region Player. Abriana plans to attend Lander University and major in nursing. With that, Sam, I'll ask you and Abriana to step to the podium. Sam, if you'll lead us in the invocation first, and then followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. We apologize, the microphones aren't working, so if you want to turn around so the audience will hear you, you're welcome to do that.
All right. Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for letting us gather here today in celebration of another great year of education. We thank you for the faculty and staff that you bless us with, so that our rising generations can have successful futures. We ask that you bless each and every one of us that are a part of this system with a safe summer full of great decision making. We thank you for everything you provide for us, and in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next item is the consent agenda. There have been some items removed from the agenda. The new agenda has been presented to the board, and without objection, the agenda will stand approved as submitted. Next, we have public participation period.
We have no request, ma'am.
Okay, as I said earlier, Mr. Giles is unable to be with us tonight. I want to just take a second. One of KC West Columbia's residents and a very active member of the Lexington District 2 family, Garrett Galloway, passed away unexpectedly this past Sunday. His wife, Robin, and his mother, Miss Johnson, are both employees. And Mr. Giles is his next door neighbor and best friend. So I just want our thoughts and prayers to be with the Galloway and the Giles family tonight. And then moving on, before I turn it over to Dr. James for reports on honors and accomplishments, we have a huge honor, our loss, their gain. Marcella has accepted the superintendent job at Barnwell 29, and we could not be prouder and wish you all the luck in the world. And I think we need to stand and give her an ovation. On honors and accomplishments of student and staff, and I'll turn that over to Dr. James.
Yeah, if we can get some kids in. David, you'll ask our ROTC kids to come in now. We've got some baseball players hanging around too that we need to see. You know it's wrong to. Sergeant Major.
Look, face, walk right, rest.
By all means, we want you here when we congratulate these young folks. We want to congratulate Airport High School's JROTC drill team, and they got the game faces on, and that's Sergeant Major. There's no doubt about that. But it's kind of old hat. These young people win competitions throughout the nation, and just recently they competed against the best of the very best from all military branches of JROTC, the Army, the Navy, Marines, Air Force, and Coast Guard. Drill teams that included all the states, including Alaska and Hawaii. At that National High School Drill Team Championship on May the 3rd and through the 6th, they came away with more decorations than you can absolutely count. They were first in squad exhibition with arms, national champions. Second, platoon inspection with arms. Second, in duet without arms. Third, in platoon regulation with arms. Duet mixed with arms. Fourth, in commander's trophy. Fifth, duet mixed with arms. Sixth, with platoon exhibition with arms. Sixth, duet with arms. Eighth, in color guard, and second place overall in the United States. If there was any concern about the state of young people in this country, I'd say that's a classic example. And I'd also say congratulations and thank you, Sergeant Major, because you've been doing that for a long while and you've been doing it very well. Thank you.
Spot, attention, right, face. Buffalo, hold left. Go left. March.
March.
Thank you, sir. We've got with us the Airport High School baseball team. They're the 4A state runners-up. They've had a great season, played a great game the other night in Chapin. Everybody thinking it was going to rain. You guys played just absolutely super. Got a lot of individual awards this year. Tyler Corbett is reaching 4A baseball player of the year. Congratulations, Tyler. Tyler Corbett, Justin Allen, the South Carolina Baseball Coaches Association 4A All-State Team. Justin Allen, Dalton Mims, Sims Owens, Brandon Kaufman, Sam LaFrage, Alan Farmer are all region performers, and the Coach of the Year in Region 4A Baseball is Tim Perry. Congratulations.
Yes, sir.
We expect you to do good things. Thank you.
Why do we wait?
Jalen Jameson. Jalen. Jalen's score is pretty outstanding. Jalen is an 8th grader from Pine Ridge who happens to run track for Airport High School's track team. On May the 12th, she ran in 4 events at the 4A meet. Out of those 4 events, she won the 100 meter, the 200 meter, the 400 meter, and the long jump at the South Carolina High School League Track and Field Championship at Spring Valley High School. If there's any doubt about the fact that she's quick, that'll
Next, we'll move on to unfinished business, which we have no unfinished business. And then we'll move on to new business, and I'll turn that over to Mr. Eisenhower. Well, actually, I'm going to turn that over to Ms. Richardson first. Thank you.
Thank you very much. As you're all aware, we have had a House version of the budget and a Senate version of the budget that was very different. The House version that had a 2% increase for teacher salaries, no increase on the base student cost. The Senate version, which is the latest version, which included a 1% increase for teacher salary and a $60 base student cost. There's some other other things that are the same. I'll go over those in a minute. But what we have before you is first reading, because the conference committee still has not met and will probably not meet and have a budget until the 27th of June. So, what we have is the Senate version, which has no millage increase. It's got almost a 1.5% increase in local tax revenue based on just growth in our assessed value that we have right now. It's based on a base student cost increase of $60 over the current year, step increase, 1% salary increase, a 1% increase on the retirement contributions for the employer, an 8.1% health insurance increase, the additional staff necessary to open the Lexington 2 Innovation Center, and operational increases for utilities and custodian contract with the opening of the 2 new locations. That's just the summary of the budget. On the next page, just again, we shared this at the budget work session, just what the legally, legislatively imposed cap would be. If we, by the Act 388 is 3.81 mils, and what that would, what the value of our mill currently is based on our estimates from the county auditor's office. Next just shows the budget. It's an $81,145,224 budget. It is a balanced budget right now. The next page are the proposed revenue increases and decreases. As you can see, we are down on EFA revenue. We did have a decrease in students this year. And we had an increase in our index of local tax paying ability, which did, even with a $60 increase, still brings us down from our current year of over $700,000. We did have, in local revenue, a $600,000 increase. So overall, we're looking at a 1.99% increase overall in expenditures and revenue for this budget. Now, I'm happy to answer any questions on revenue before we move to other details. If not, again, I think we've already talked about the fact of what we have for increases for the Cape Center and the custodian and utilities, the step increase, the other state mandated increases. We also, just from, as you saw from our retirees, we do have a lot of people retiring, so we've been tracking what the salary differential with the new hires. So right now we're at a little over $1 million savings on some of that. We also have 15 positions identified that we could unfill to balance this budget, of total savings on this budget of $2.3 million. So an overall increase in the budget of 1.5. So I present to you the first reading on the budget as it stands right now with the Senate version. Should any version of the House or there be any changes that aren't part of the Senate that are outside of the scope, we could reserve a portion of the 17-18 excess to appropriate towards that, should that come in differently. So we recommend approval of the first reading of the budget with the information we have at hand.
Madam Chair, I make a motion that we approve for first reading the general 2018-19 general fund budget in the amount of $81,145,224.
I have a motion, do I have a second? Second by Ms. Kessler. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right, next we have,
Before we move, now that we've got first reading, you're going to have to advertise.
Yes. Yeah, well, we have that ready to go and issue that notice of public hearing. The public hearing will be the 28th of June. So with them not getting a decision, hopefully we'll have a decision. They're supposed to have one by the 27th. So we'll issue the notice of public hearing with this Senate version of the budget.
Yeah, the thought is we'll know on the 27th.
Yes. Oh.
all right, next item is consideration to authorize administration to apply for Titles 1, 3, and neglected and delinquent MDD funds. Ms. Gunn?
Good evening. I'd like to request tonight for the board to authorize the administration to apply for funds under Title I, Parts A and D, and Title III. You have in your board packets as much information as we have at the current time about funding for next year. At the time that this was printed, it was written in there that we were expecting a $300 million increase for Title I nationwide. Now that's been changed. They've told us to expect level funding, which means there will be no increases or decreases in our funding. A couple other things I wanted to point out to you, as I mentioned the last time I was here, about under the Every Students at SIGS Act, there was something new about foster care transportation, and that if it was determined it was in the best interest of the child to remain in their home school at the time that they were placed in foster care, that they expected or required that the social services and the school districts work out something about agreeing to pay for the transportation to the home school. We did do a memorandum of agreement with the Department of Social Services, and our memorandum of agreement is a 50-50 pay. And we've had some expenditures on that, but not very much at this time. Also, I wanted to point out, as you know, Riverbank Elementary will be a Title I school next year, and I just wanted to explain how we got the numbers for that school, even though they have not come online yet. As you know, as far as poverty goes, we look at the last 135-day count, the final 135-day count, and the free and reduced numbers of lunch participants. So for Riverbank, what we did is we just put the numbers minus the 4-year-olds of BC number 1 and kind of together to allow the poverty amount for Riverbank Elementary School. And I'll try to answer your questions tonight. Mr. Van?
Madam Chair, I make a motion that we authorize administration to apply for Title I, Title III, and neglected and delinquent funds.
I have a motion, do I have a second? Second by Ms. Kessler. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Next, we have first reading of revision of board policy JKAA, high school student discipline, and JKAB, elementary, middle school student discipline.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. Please disregard what's in your notebook. There's a cover sheet and both policies behind the cover sheets. The new policies are printed, the changes are in red. It'll be much easier for you guys to see. So let's get started with JKAA, high school discipline policy. For those who've been on the board, you know, the last several years we have brought you new category ones to put in. We felt like at this point in time, we needed to review all the policies. We had to touch some of the category 2 and category 3s and category 4s to update them we still had, for example, in the elementary discipline policy, Heelys, and they don't have Heelys anymore. So we wanted to upgrade and modernize everything. Based on what information we got is that disturbing schools law is on the governor's desk, and if he signs it, or if he's already signed it, students cannot be charged anymore with disturbing schools. We had looked at our number 16, which is the disruption of the school environment. It used to say disturbing schools, and we changed the language. But we felt like since that was going to be a major change, that we admitted it from both policies, JKAA and JKAB. How we combat that, though, or compensate for is a better word, is if you go down and you'll see under JKA all those changes to policy 2. And it says add a hearing officer option for first offense. We'll have to work with our administrators to understand not every assault, every fight is going to be going to the hearing officer. But those that create that crowd of kids around at lunchtime and everything, we used to charge with a 16, we now can charge with fight. Even as a hearing officer, I can tell you that most people say their child was involved in a fight, but they'll challenge you on how much it's disrupted the school. This will be more clear cut for us and have that option. Something that really needed, and it's number 24 at the high school level, Cat 2, Code 24, and it's Cat 2, Code 40 at the elementary and middle school level, is the bullying, threats, and intimidation, harassment. We felt like we needed to beef that one up as well as have a hearing officer option. I can't tell you how many kids, since all of this is going on, that we've just seen threats from the kindergarten level on up that needed more than just 3 days at home. It needed some looking at, and we feel like we'll be better off for that. And it may stop some of it. I never thought when we passed that one about $250 or more, but it slowed it down. So hopefully we're going to slow some of this stuff down with it, okay? The trespassing, possession of a pocket knife. Possession of a pocket knife 2 inches is still a legal thing. So we wanted to make sure we had enough days there as well as giving the parents, because if the kid brought it a second time, they go to a hearing. And we mandated on the elementary side for the police. The police already do it at the high school. Direct, defiant, and deliberate refusal to follow a reasonable request. Again, we added the hearing option and added an option of 05. 36, inappropriate physical contact, we added an 05. And what we did, especially in the elementary and the middle school people, Stephanie Hutch really helped me a lot with the middle school. She wanted it to be more in line with high school as we got with the 7th and 8th graders. So you'll see a larger number on top, but the option of a smaller number under it. It used to be the opposite. So now, you've got, so for the elementary folks, you've got an option of less. But they wanted to really send a message so the kids wouldn't get up to the high school and get themselves in trouble right away. So we feel like that will be more in line, especially with kids in the 8th grade going to the 9th. We upped the gang affiliation. This is the second time we've actually done that. The prescription medication one, we've had a few incidences this year, and it's been pretty serious. We had that forgery, felon file prescribed medication policy, and if you turn into your policy, to probably the biggest thing, it will be on JKA page 7. I was at one of the elementary schools a month or so ago, and they were having difficulty with the D notes coming from the bus. So I sat down with a couple of them, and you know, they were right. Our bus discipline was sprinkled throughout Category 2, Category 3, and Category 4. You had to look for it. And parents never saw that. We decided to create, you can call it whatever you want to, a Category 3B for buses, and this is nothing but bus discipline. This will, I think it will send a clear message. Now, For example, fighting's not on there because fighting would be a category 2 and we would go and do suspension for that. But these are these behaviors. We've got to slow down some of this safety stuff. Kids being up, running around, sticking their head out the window, throwing trash out the window, things like that. And it's very simple to read. Our bus drivers will benefit too when they look on there and say, well, what the kid did was this and this and this. A lot of them are repeats. For example, disruption. If you go to category 3, it says disruption of the classroom. This one says disruption of the school bus. We used to have them together. I don't think it's repeat. I think it just sends, if more people will see this as the bus discipline. And I think our drivers and our parents and our students will know. And I think it'll be easier for us to carry out discipline. I've talked with Tony Sargent as well as high school, middle school, and elementary school people, and they agreed with this. We would give it a try. And the last one on the high school is the party. They wanted to have a little, after about the 5th or 6th party, they wanted to have a little more there to get kids' attention because some kids were getting up to 10 to 12 to 15 parties, and what happens is they lose their seat time. So they end up fell into the course. We'd rather punish them a little bit and maybe stop them from being tardy so much so they get credit for the class. Any questions about JKAA? JKAB is very similar. Not only did we admitted Cat 1 Code 16, but we also in the category 2 added the hearing officer options. But we also added those additional options that the middle school wanted so they would be more in line with the high school. So we made sure that there was a list. So if you go, for example, possession of fireworks, ammunition, chemical devices, and things like that, 05 is the same thing as high school, but we put an 02 in there for elementary students. So we would have somewhere, we would have still an option in there, but I always as a principal, and I would tell the elementary principal, when a kid got towards the latter half of 2nd grade, and they were going into 3rd grade where zero tolerance comes in, we need to really make sure they understand we're going to enforce the policy. I never want somebody to say we didn't know what we can do there. So if you look at those, we went down, and I think again, number 40 was something along with the one on the high school. It's the blackmails, threats, and intimidation. We had threat to school officials, to a staff on category 1. We had nothing for somebody to say, I'm going to come up and bring a tank to school and blow your head off. That didn't happen this year, okay? But I'm just saying, but this gives us a hearing office option if it's severe. Category 3, those are mainly just to get us in line, again, with the high school for the middle school to use, especially with those kids that are going to be 8th graders transitioning to the 9th grade. On page 6, that's a specific level discipline, just like the ones we had in high school. They're very much alike. And again, category 4, page 7, those are the ones. And we took Heelys out and put skateboards in down there, okay? We don't have many skateboards anymore, so we're going to have to come up with something creative. But we put these in to strengthen our policy as well as hopefully deferring or to lessen some of the consequences we have to give, but they're there if we need them. The other thing we did is we smartened up the format. Used to, when it would say appeal, it would start on one page and go to the other. We've got everything on the page together going through this. It's a little small, and I have to hold it up like this, but we think the format, well, it saves us a page per policy, so it'll be less to copy. But I think it just doesn't go, we don't have things going from one page to another. I think that was a distraction, and people would lose, especially that appellate process, which is at the back of the policy.
Mr. Bailey.
Madam Chair, I make a motion we approve first reading of revisions to board policy JKAE, AA, high school student discipline, and JKAB, elementary and middle school student discipline.
Have a motion to have a second. Second, Ms. Bailey.
Now I've got a question.
Yes, sir.
Go back to, on the JKAA, the new policy 74, being late to the bus stop for morning pickup.
Yes, sir.
Well, who would that apply to? Because if they're late, the bus is gone, so they're not there.
It's hard to leave a little one at the bus stop. In Lexington too, man, if we're out there in the rural areas, the bus can wait a little bit, but when you're on 378, you don't want to back up traffic, but also our bus drivers know that that kid's coming and they don't want to leave them in a house where there's nobody there for them. So we stay, people get irritated with us. It's not something that happens every day. It happens very rarely, but it's something that we have, especially for the kids whose parents are already gone to work and they're sitting inside playing Nintendo or something like that. We'll get their attention. It's been in the policy before. It was just mixed up in there. You didn't, but it's been in there.
In our neighborhood, bus drivers will pump the horn 3-4 times before that child come out. I'm glad to see it.
This is not something we would punish a kid if it's the parent's fault, okay? This would be on the kid. They're down the block visiting somebody, and here they come running when the bus gets ready to pull off.
Now, I was just wanting to make sure, I mean, they get gigged if they get the school tardy anyway.
Yes, sir.
So if they didn't show up for the bus, they're not getting tardy because they weren't on the bus, and then.
If they weren't on the bus, they're not gonna get this one, okay? We'd get them for being tardy. We wouldn't double penalize them. This is the one the bus driver sees it when it has to stop real quick, put the arm back out, and he runs on the bus or she runs on the bus. Does that make sense? Okay, I'm just making sure. Buses are a whole different. We have kids that are the very best in the world in our classrooms, and they get on the bus, and it's just like a different personality comes out.
Any more discussion? We have a motion, we have a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Next is item D, and that's consideration of Brooklyn Casey High School teacher travel for AP Summer Institute.
Yes, ma'am. Policy indicates if we're going to use any type of general funds for out-of-state travel, we must request permission from the board. This says that we will use general funds to cover the associated costs. Really, it's a grant that's paying for it, and there's about a $300 differential that we need to cover from general funds. So administration recommends approval of the out-of-state personnel travel using general funds.
Motion to approve the DC High School teacher travel for the AP Summer Institute.
We have a motion to have a second. Second. Second by Ms. Kessler. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Madam Chair, same applies for item E. We're using actually state professional development funds to cover most of the associated costs. There's a differential, and we're asking that the board gives approval for us to use general funds for the out-of-state personnel travel.
Motion to approve the recommendation of administration for the out-of-state travel for Director of Testing, Research, Accountability.
Have a motion to have a second. Second. Second by Ms. Kessler. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Next, we'll go to item F. And I think probably the next 10 we'll turn over to Mr. Eisenhower.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, members of the board, Dr. James, I'd like to recognize Mr. Todd Cease with Jumper First Cease and Mr. Glenn Dillon with Contract Construction. We'd like to present to you for consideration tonight. And Glenn, make sure I've got everything. And we're also happy to have Mr. John Farley with us, who is the CEO of Contract Construction. So, Glenn, just make sure that everything is in here. What we're going to be presenting tonight basically is a demolition package, an early site package, a full site package, foundation, rebar, and hollow metal doors.
And abate.
And abate. For asbestos. All right, Todd, I think is going to show just a little bit, real quick about the overall project.
Yeah, I'm gonna hand this out.
All right, thank you, Mr. Eisenhower, Madam Chairman, members of the board, Dr. James, thank you for this opportunity. Just kind of give you an update on where we are. Glenn and John have been working hard, getting some good numbers. So we've got some good news to share with you. And I must say, it's fun being here this time of year to celebrate the accomplishments of the students here in Lexington too. And I'd be remiss if we didn't, if I didn't mention the airport baseball team. And Ms. Kessler, obviously, those guys can hit better than we could when I was there playing baseball. But congratulations to all the students, and thank you guys for what you do for the benefit of the students. But just to kind of orient you, Boston Avenue runs up and down the right-hand side of the sheet. Walterboro is here, Airport High School is at the bottom. The blue indicates the new additions. We've been working closely with Ms. Carrera and her group, and Mr. Eisenhower and his group, and coming up with the program for a new 60,000 square foot addition of space that includes science labs and avid labs and media center, learning center, new cafeteria, and a new safe and secure entryway into the facility, and a safe and secure courtyard. We'll be renovating the existing 300 hall classroom wing and modifying the site. So things are going well, and that's what Glenn and John are going to present tonight. And then just kind of a rendering of, remind you of what the building's going to look like. It'll certainly have a presence along Boston Avenue, and it's a two-story substantial addition, again, to really put the best space forward for middle school. I'll turn that over to John now.
Thank you, Todd. Madam Chairwoman, members of the board, Dr. James, we sure appreciate this opportunity to be here. You know, when we've been in the work for some time, we're really excited about getting started on it, and we're going to turn it over to you in time for the 2019 school year. One thing also I want to mention, our business development manager and workforce developer manager, Megan McPhail, is in contact with Bernie Atkins about possibly engaging some students in the initiatives we have in workforce development. Hopefully we can generate some interest in that to help build our future workforce. Just want to mention that that's one of our initiatives and helping promote the industry. That's it. I'm going to turn it over to Glenn to further explain our DMP proposal.
Madam Chair, members of the board, you know I like presentations, color, and Don's always telling me brevity is my friend, so I'll be quick. The top picture is the demo, is the work, it's what I see when I do a takeoff to make sure all our subcontractors do all what they're supposed to. That's all the items coming out. It kind of gives you an idea of the volume of work we're doing over there. The lower picture is the new site work going in, and the new building going in, and it shows you what we're doing as far as putting back. I just thought that might help to explain a little better as far as what we got. As Don said, we're doing abatement, demolition, complete site work, hollow metal frames, and rebar in order to get us moving forward on some metals and getting things in line. So we started in August. We'll be getting together. Now we plan, I say August, but we plan on hitting the ground running as soon as the kids are gone with abatement. So you'll see it's out there pretty soon. I would like to ask that the board approve a $1,979,634 GMP for those items that I mentioned. $1,979,634. We were very successful with our bid this past Friday. We reached out to 5 very substantial major subcontractors for site work, and we got 5 very good numbers back in.
Do you think, is that number, because, you know, we don't bring us amounts that are, we're going to do a little bit now and the rest of it later, is that in line with what you think we kind of have budgeted for this project?
Yes,
or where we are at this point in the project?
It is within where we thought we were going to be, and it is also, we're still working with Todd on some items we noticed in there we can save some more money on. So we're not, by giving you this tonight, we're not stopping looking for other ways to save money as we've done with other projects we've done with y'all. We always look for a better way to do it, another way to skin the cat, and just a way to save some more money.
We also have included the price of the hollow metal door frames and rebar. So those are long lead items, and you realize you got a short fuse. There's not a whole lot of earthwork involved, so once the demolition's done, you want to have those materials on hand so we can get the job running.
They'll be on site and ready when the building pad is ready. Something we won't have to wait for.
Hey Glenn, you want to share your successful load site contract?
Our successful load site contractor with Stocks and Sons. I know he's very
Local
active.
guy, Lexington guy, does great work.
Very local. He also has a rising freshman at Airport High School.
I'll make a motion to approve the early package building pad foundation and partial demolition and asbestos abatement as presented. Got all four? Yep. As presented by administration.
Have a motion to have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. King. Any discussion? Mr. Manning?
I figured you ordered the hollow metal and the steel, because the price of steel is going
It's
sky
every day, every day.
You wanted to get a jump on the cost of it.
We're finalizing pricing on that. We didn't quite get it in time.
Is that through local dealer?
The hollow metal or the rebar?
Both.
Both, yes, ma'am.
Any more discussion? All in favor say aye. 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 Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, we also have for your consideration, I'd like to recognize Mr. George Corley, who's in the audience with us, owner of Telecom Communications. We'd like to present to you tonight the information to basically wire the new arena, to install new data wiring, as well as telephones. And we'd like to ask that you approve the contract to Telecom Communications in the amount of $114,797. And Mr. Corley's available if you have any questions.
Motion to approve the wiring contract for telephone as presented by administration.
Have a motion to have a second? Second. Second by Mr. Penny. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. 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 Opposed?
$114,797.
I do want to point out that in your notes that I provided to you, it says the burglar alarm is included. It does not include the burglar alarm. The burglar alarm will be added on to what we have at Airport High School. Brooklyn Case High School. Also,
Wait a minute, I got to vote.
oh, I'm sorry.
Okay. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay.
And I have some handouts actually for you. That was the last one we voted on, that was the one coming up. Item H, Madam Chair, consideration of vendor services contract for cleaning facilities for the 2018-2019 school year. The administration would like to present information about extending this contract with cleaning services for Lexington School District 2. And what we've done is, as you see in your handout, is basically we have given them a cost of living increase, and we have given them a little more money for the added square footage at the arena for half a year, for the Lexington 2 Innovation Center, for Riverbank Elementary School, for Springdale. They're all listed on there so you can see them in the square footage that is being added. So we would like to recommend that you extend this contract in the amount of $2,213,525. $2,213,525.
I'm sure we've got a recreational department in there somewhere because they're still watching ball games for 3 hours at a time.
Mr. Manning.
I'll make a motion that we extend the contract with Defender Services in the amount of $2,213,525.
A motion to have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Ms. Kessler.
What are you looking
Any more discussion?
I do.
Okay, Ms. Kessler.
I continue to get complaints about our facilities. If they're not doing their job, can they be terminated?
Well, if you recall, part of what we're doing this year is we're separating the district employees, putting them in one school, Defender employees in other schools, and we're going to basically evaluate them. And come about probably January, we will have a recommendation for you to consider.
Okay, well, 2 weeks ago, I had a couple parents that commented because they were down doing some volunteer work, and for 4 hours, they watched and served a couple of people in one of our middle schools. Defender is there. And the ladies stayed on their cell phone in the closet for 3 hours of the 4.
You're asking, can individuals be fired?
Well, obviously not going to be, because we've presented this issue to them several times. And the problem still continues even though they have more management. I just want you to have a handle on it and be able to do something about it, because if they're not doing their work, we're giving them a lot of money.
Mr. Ron Arnold is here tonight, as well as Bill McPherson, who obviously Ron is our representative between our district and Defender Services. And Ron has done a lot of work to try to make sure that they are organized. He also does a lot of work to help make sure that people do their job. So if there are those reports, if we can get them to Ron, he will follow up on them and make sure that Defender takes whatever action is necessary.
There have been several terminations within the last month.
Thank you. Madam Chairman, so Mr. Eisenhower, who is in charge of the schools where it's our district employees? Is it Defender people are their bosses, or who's in charge of them?
Defender is going to continue to provide the same type of service that they've been providing. Scheduling, if scheduling is needed, make sure that they have clean items,
the machines, mops, whatever we need. The administration at the school will be over those people. Defender will not be in there to tell them what to do, what not to do. Ron, myself, will work with those principals, those assistant principals, and give them whatever support they need. Defender will supply materials.
So the Defender people will not be over our people that are actually our district employees. They will not be over them, because I'm just concerned about some of the treatment that we've heard of.
Ultimately, in the schools where we put our employee, the principal will be the person that's in charge. Bill and Ron will make sure they get all their chemicals and all their equipment, but the principal will be responsible for telling them what was done and supervising and monitoring. They'll have enough people, but it will be the principal.
Well, that was just my concern. I want to make sure Defender wasn't over our people.
No, that's their whole plan, is to separate Defender and our folks and see where the breakdown is. So the principal.
And then we'll ask y'all to keep a really close eye on the supplying and all that kind of stuff, because I would surely hate to see.
We have a plan. We are definitely looking. We will definitely look at that.
Can we get rid of the felt mops that don't work?
Is that you talking about the microfiber mop? I guess.
Whatever they are, they don't
Okay.
work. They're horrible, and I just was behind one for a while, about less than a month ago.
Okay.
Okay, so we have a motion, we have a second. Do we have any more discussion? All right, all in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carries.
No. I'm going to go down as a no.
Madam Chair, item I on the agenda, consideration of constructing handicap accessibility to the kindergarten playground at Springdale Elementary. As you know, we're in the process of renovating that school. The kindergarten playground has some serious erosion problems. It's come down in a hole. There's absolutely no accessibility there. part of what we're hoping to accomplish at these facilities where we're doing considerable renovation is to try to provide as much accessibility as we can and as much as we can afford. So what we would like to propose for your consideration tonight is that we award the contract to MDCon to install ADA accessibility as well as some additional playground, handicap accessible playground items in the amount of $124,292.
I'll make a motion to approve the administration's recommendation of playground, ADA playground equipment and access to kindergartners for Springdale.
So, I have a motion, I have a second. Any discussion?
Yes.
Mr. Bain?
Can you elaborate a little bit on the ADA equipment that we're talking about? Are we talking about accessible type swings, or?
It's mostly stuff that you would play, like with, it could be something that makes music that they would play in a wheelchair. There's also an apparatus that circles that an ADA student can get in and can participate as other students are going around in a circle. There are those types of things. I don't think we've got one of those coming in this particular thing, and it's also things where you can draw. It's most of the stuff that'll go along that sidewalk that we installed. And I think, is Kay in here? I think we gave you some information in your packet.
You asked me not to, but I can get it to them.
We will send that information.
So we're not talking about, I know they've got entire playgrounds for nothing but accessible.
No, sir.
Things where they have seesaws and platforms and all this kind of stuff that they can, wheelchairs can access and ramps to go up and participate in that sort of thing. So we're not talking about anything like that.
No, what we're talking about basically is we're taking the sand out underneath the particular apparatus that's in the kindergarten playground area, and we're putting in the turf that will allow a handicapped child to roll in and again help participate as much as possible within that apparatus.
Accessibility.
Yes, and we're also part of the construction that we're already building gets a sidewalk down to the big playground. But what it does is it gets it down to a paved area, and then there's some playground equipment that's just off to the side of that. We're trying to again complete that accessibility over to that piece of equipment and put some turf underneath it as well, so that we can at least have some accessibility at both of the playgrounds.
All right, any other questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
All right, Mr. Bill McPherson will come up now and talk to you about some work that he wants to do at the baseball and softball field at Airport High School.
So, Madam Chair, Dr. James Ramsey Board, thank you for having me tonight. I've been kind of taxed over the last couple of meetings about athletic fields even looking good, and we kind of went around and did a survey. Of course, DC High School baseball looks phenomenal. We just redid that last summer. The softball field has a wonderful standard of Bermuda on that. If you go to Airport High School, there's very little Bermuda out there in the outfield, and then the softball field also. I walked it about an hour ago, but it's tremendously, there's nothing out there really. There's a bunch of Poan and some other stuff out there. So what we'd like to do is come in there. The airport baseball field, there's also some safety issues out there. There's a big patch of sand you probably all saw out there. When you walk around, there's divots where irrigation's been put in some holes. So we'd like to go out there and they put about 500 tons of peat sand mixture on that baseball field, sprig it, and then put the water to it to grow that in nicely, and do the same thing on the softball field, about 150 tons of peat moss sand mixture and get a good standard of meat on both those fields. And from there, I feel very confident we can maintain those. So budget price is about $40,000 to do both of those. The 8-10 week maintenance cycle as far as irrigation, the top dress rolled at the end of it and everything. So we'll have something along the lines of what we have at Brooklyn Casey High School. So I ask your permission to put that out for bid, or if you have any other questions, I can answer those.
I'll make a motion to approve the sprigging for the baseball and softball field as recommended. I have questions that come back to me after the
Second by Ms. Kessler. Ms. Brown?
You aren't here, so this is not on you at all, but I thought the summer before, we did the BC baseball and softball fields. We did a bunch of stuff, I thought, redoing the fields at airport, I thought. And I'm not saying
we did some. So
I'm not saying I don't want to do this, because I definitely want their field to look really, really good.
Yes,
my question is not that. My question is, did we not go as far as we should a couple of years ago, or we just had death of the grass, or was it a bad install? That's kind of where my question. My question isn't whether or not it needs doing. It needs doing.
Softball field was not touched.
The infield at the baseball field was sodded, and if you look in there right now, there's a good standard reader that has not been taken care of. So we will do that. The outfield was not touched, nor was softball. So does that answer?
Yeah, actually.
And why they didn't do it all, when you get time came back in here. But I probably didn't have enough money, to be honest with you, is probably where it was.
Like on the third base side of the softball field, there's about an 18-inch drop there. We can fill that in.
Yes, with all this, we're going to try to make that safe and level all those fields out. And then, yeah, you come off the back, there's a drop even on first base side, there's probably 6-8 inches.
And I will apologize. Ms. Kessler did try to tell us a couple years ago there was a lot of stuff that was not done around the softball, so I couldn't remember that.
Well, thank you for your question.
Regarding irrigation, are we okay with the irrigation for the field?
The irrigation.
When you put this down, you're going to have the water necessary to do it?
Yes, sir. We have irrigation out there. They moved the fence in a few years ago, and then this year they put up a windscreen, which kind of blocks the irrigation lines on the outside, but we're going to move those. We're going to chop that line, move it inside, so we will have no problem with irrigation on those fields.
On the baseball field?
The baseball, yes, ma'am.
That's not softball.
I think Don, Mr. Eisenhower, when he got here, he got the well back running up on softball that was down, so we have water.
I have a question, but it doesn't have anything to do with, well, it doesn't have much to do with this specific point. But we're proving to spend an awful lot of money, and I want to make sure that this is in the budget and that we're not going to be asking for a millage increase come June the 28th, and that we're going to be able to afford these things with the budget we currently have, with that balanced budget that we're proposed.
And my funding source.
That really wasn't, I mean, I don't think we'd be in a position to answer it, but a couple people might be.
Well, I mean, if I may,
yeah.
My funding plan for this was to use CPIF, the contingency. And I have several projects going on right now that will come in under budget, and I feel like I can cover this.
And I realize we're spending CPI money, but if we don't have the budget to come June the 28th to pay salaries, we won't be able to do anything else. So I just want to make sure that we're not going to, that we're overspending in these areas, and then we'll have issues come June the 28th.
It won't impact at all. Right. Thank you.
All right, we have a motion second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Mr. President. The next item is the sound system for the cafeteria at Airport High School.
I'm trying to get out of here. We have in the 2017-18 CPI budget was the sound system for the cafeteria at Airport High School. We got a design on that. We put it out to bid. We had, I think, 3 people bid on it, and we awarded it to Music Craft. So we'd like to get your approval to do that award and have them install that system.
Motion to ratify the contract as presented.
Second. Second, Mr. King. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Madam Chair, also for your consideration, we'd like to install video cameras and access control at Brooklyn and Casey High School in Unina. So the administration recommends awarding the contract for this work to A3 Communications in the amount of $53,649.72.
Motion to approve the awarding of the contract A3 Communications as presented by administration.
I have a motion, do I have a second? Second by Ms. Kessler.
Question. So like access controls, we don't have like keypads?
Keyless entry.
Okay.
Any other questions?
That would be like cards or like keypad?
Through the cards. And it will also have an iPhone, and part of what we're trying to do, there aren't really many people that have their offices in there, but we want to make sure that we secure that facility so that they know who's coming in, so they'll be able to push a button, talk to people inside, for getting access if they're in there through basically electric drive.
Motion, I have a second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Madam Chair, also for your consideration, we'd like to finish some work at the Eagles, between the Eagles Nest and the new baseball press box at Airport High School. And what we did before was we had an architect to design some things, and there were some things that we wanted to go beyond that were kind of left off. And rather than going back and increasing the work as it was bid previously, we wanted to go directly with the contractor. So we'd like to, and to give you, we gave you everything in your write-up with the exception of, we've learned that we need more lockers for the baseball team because of JV, and there's a room right close to, right within the same locker room in the Eagles Nest. We'd like to put a total of 18 more lockers in there for the baseball, JV and varsity teams. Also on the visitor side of the Eagles Nest, we'd like to put a total of 12 lockers in there so that the tennis teams can use those and have them dressing in a room that has no access to restrooms. So we'd like to award a contract to Contract Construction in the amount of $54,745. That also includes some installation of a storm drain modification that we were told was out beyond the scope of work for the architect that was involved previously.
Motion to approve the contract for completion of work between the Eagles Nest and the baseball press box as recommended by administration, and award the contract to Contract Construction in the amount of $54,745.
Motion, do I have a second? Second by Mr. Key. Mr. Boone?
All right, you said that the description of the work or the work was in the packet?
It's in your write-up.
The steps from going up to the practice field, I think are already there.
They are. So
Question about the handrails on that, is that not?
They're coming, that's part of it.
How about go over it again, exactly what is it for?
I'm sorry. What we're looking to do is to install additional lockers in the Eagles Nest, which we covered. Some additional concrete between the Eagles Nest and the new press box. When we were out there watching games, we noticed that when people came around behind the Eagles Nest from the ADA parking that we've installed, they cut straight through the grass instead of turning just a little turn right there. So we want to fill that in with concrete. And then when people are going from the bleachers over to the canteen restrooms or to the canteen, there's just a small space, not much bigger than this desk. In a couple of places it's a little bigger than that, but there's grass and it's going to be hard to maintain. And there's drains there, we just like to go in for that with concrete, slope some drains, so that it won't be a mud hole when if it rains or anything like that. And a new sound system for the baseball press box. We need to modify the existing bleachers at the baseball and softball complex to become ADA compliant. And we need to install the steps to the practice field, which they have actually already been installed, because I just happened to be there again and watching kids walk across, and they're coming from the middle school, going right down the new bank that we just put in. So I saw an erosion problem coming, and while they were out there with concrete truck, I said, go ahead and form this up and let's get this steps put in to eliminate this erosion issue. And then there was the storm drain modification. Installation of the storm catch basin.
Should people be driving in vehicles across that sidewalk up between the tennis courts going out behind the building? Is there any need for any reason for people to be doing that?
Probably not.
Or can we get it stopped?
I don't know. I mean, we put a gate in that allows that.
This is during a game, they're driving back in.
And I think what we were doing is we were allowing folks to come in that were handicapped, because that's what we were doing previously. And people didn't realize that we had put in new handicap parking and accessibility from that parking. So it was the school's decision basically to continue and not make it an issue for these last games, because we didn't have those in the season started.
But you don't anticipate that happening next year?
I would hope the school would monitor that and adjust accordingly.
It's at our expense to fix it, I think. You should enforce that. Question about all that, the large gravel there is very, very dangerous. We had one person to fall from Belton Hunting Path and got hurt pretty badly because it's not lighted out there. Plus it's huge gravel. Can we not remove that, but if we can't do anything else but crush and run or something to help it? But this gentleman got hurt.
Yes, ma'am, and we were aware of that, and we asked Mr. McPherson to actually go out there where the gentleman fell. We made sure we cut one tree that was impeding light coming onto, there was a little ramp, a little
Also painted that
speed bump. We painted that yellow, and we put some additional lighting out there, so we addressed that issue.
Thank you.
These additional items like the lockers and the sound system, all that, was that requested by the school or?
The sound system was something that we were going to be putting in anyway. It was just something that we were going to contract ourselves directly with the contractor to do that, rather than paying the architect fees to do that.
And what about the other stuff?
The lockers is something that they asked for after the fact, because we only put, John, do you remember how many it was? I'm thinking it was, is it John? I think it was 29 or 30 is all we could get in. And then they came back and told us that they really needed 40 because of the JVs dressing in the same room. We didn't realize it's the JVs. We're going to be dressing.
Well, I certainly support it, because I want to support whatever it is the school requests to be in their facilities.
So it's within reason.
Well, within reason.
Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Madam Chair, also for your consideration, we have explored the possibility of installing irrigation wells at Springdale Elementary, at Casey Elementary, and at the Lexington 2 Innovation Center. And what we'd like for you to do is to give us the authority to proceed with installing those at all 3 of those sites, so that we can monitor the impact of those wells. All of these wells, the results were very good. We tried to do one at Riverbank Elementary, and we did not have the success on the one that we tried. So we kind of nixed the idea of doing it there until we can monitor these other 3 sites and just see what kind of impact it has on our cost for irrigation. So we're planning to take, with your approval, we're planning to take the cost out of, for the Lexington Innovation Center out of an allowance that is already in there, in the bid for that particular facility. And for the Casey Elementary, we would like to take the money out of the existing contingency because we still have not closed that project out. So the only one that we're asking you to approve money for tonight, that would be a different contract, would be for the ones at Springdale Elementary. And we'd like to ask that you award the contract to Con in the amount of $27,969 for 3 wells to supply the irrigation that will be installed on that campus.
Motion to approve the contract is recommended by administration to install wells at Springdale Elementary to Con in the amount of $27,969 and to approve the installation of the wells at the Career and Innovation Center in Casey Elementary School.
Have a motion to have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Key. Any discussion? All in favor, say, I'm sorry, Mr. Bell.
You said they've already drilled test holes? So where did we get water at?
It was different at Barry here.
Yeah.
Springdale, 30 feet.
30. Well, Springdale was in the 65 to 70 foot depth. At the Cape Center, it was around 35 feet depth.
So these are all shallow wells?
All shallow sand wells.
Okay.
Yes.
And the flow was?
The flow varied, but it was pretty consistent at Springdale. We had one at 16 gallons a minute, but we had one, I think, around 26 gallons a minute. And then we had a third one, I think, was pushing a little over 30 gallons a minute. So the way the irrigation system has to be designed anyway, either with or without wells, that they will create a main water loop, and we'll just tie all 3 of them into that same loop, and they'll essentially work all together. And then at the Cape Center, maybe a little bit better. I think we were upper 20s on 2 and around 30 gallons or better on one of those. So we were a little bit better. There again, they're real close together. They'll be tied together on the main loop that goes around. And at Casey, we've only so far did that one exploration at Casey Elementary, and it's pushing a little better than 30 gallons a minute by itself. So we're very optimistic that we go in and at least do one more. Maybe we only have to do 2 at Casey Elementary School, and we're done with the wells.
Except for hooking them up, running power, and all that. There's still a good bit of cost. What we did was just really try to explore, is this worth doing? And we kept finding nuggets. So we felt
Well,
like
they got to get the test well permit first. They got to test the test well to see what it produces. Then you can design the rest of it.
That's right. And they've done the tests.
We've done some testing. We want to go to a second level of testing. They've individually tested with a generator for 2 or 3 hours to see if they would continue that yield, which they have, which was good news. Now the next test we will do is actually tie, like at Springdale or the Cape Center, tie all 3 together, and we'll pump test them as one unit. So we'll have 3 pumps running at one time, and we'll pump test them. So I've seen pump tests go for sometimes as much as 2 days, but so you have to know that yield doesn't start out here and wind up down here over 8 hours or so time. So but we feel pretty good about it. So far, we still have fingers crossed, but I think everything's looking very well there.
How about iron content of the water?
We haven't actually tested that, but I mean, we could test them for anything that won't, of course, they won't be potable drinking wells. And
no, it's just that a lot of the wells around here that are real shallow like that have a high iron content, and when you're spraying and it hits the concrete or the building, it turns it rusty colored.
Yeah.
So you just need to be aware of that.
That's true. And a lot of the islands will be just shrubbery and like mulch or whatever going in those areas, so hopefully that'll lend itself to not staining or creating that film that you're talking about. It's kind of hard sometimes get off.
Overall, we're just concerned with the amount of irrigation that we're putting in. We want to make sure that if we're spending money to put it in, that we can afford to operate it. So we're just trying to minimize the cost.
The good news is that the payback's looking like less than 3 years. So I think that's the real quality of all of that. When you look at what you would pay over a number of years for city water versus what the payback is on the well. So it's a relatively, short time.
Yeah. My concern, I live not far behind where that is in Moss Creek, and we don't hit shallow water there. My well is 700 feet deep. So the quantity and the quality of the water is the thing if you can get it shallow.
Right, that's right.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. 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 Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, sir. That wasn't too difficult, was it? All right. Next, we have consideration of request for out-of-state or overnight student travel. Mr. Hammond, you can sit.
Motion to approve of out-of-state or overnight student travel and ratify those trips that are taking place.
Motion, do I have a second? Do we have a second?
Yes.
By Mr. Keith. All right, any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right, next, we're going to move to administrative divisional reports versus the superintendent. Dr. Jones, you have no report tonight? Okay. Next, I'll turn it over to Dr. Hayward Evans for enrollment.
Yes, ma'am. Madam Chair, members of the board, we present to you tonight our projected enrollment numbers as we know it at this point in time. We'll go school by school and we will certainly entertain any questions that you may have. The first school we would like to present to you is Casey Elementary. And I would like to point out to you where you see third grade. We have currently 7 teachers at third grade at Casey. We're going to continue hopefully with the 7 teachers, but as you're aware, you approved the Oasis expansion. We're just predicting that we will take one of the third grade teachers and shift them to be the Oasis teacher or that position. And so we wouldn't be adding or taking anything away there. At Casey, it'll be a net of 0. At BC number 1, we just provided to you the current class ranges for your information. At Congaree, there'll be a reduction of 1 teacher. And at Seawick, there'll be a reduction of 1 teacher. At Pineview, we provided to you the current class ranges. Riverbank Elementary, we're going to net 2 FTEs.
Last year when we had teachers moving, 2 teachers were told that they would be able to go by to Slough River this year. Will they be going back to Slough River?
We actually discussed this in cabinet and I need to reach out to that person too. Well, the teacher and the team. Slough River. Springdale Elementary. I'm sorry.
Oh, Riverbank, you're adding to.
No, we're technically each school basically to help with the budget assisted us with the net. And so we took 2 from Riverbank because it would be taking 1 from Pineview and 1 from BC number 1. That makes sense? Springdale. And Wood. The only one that causes us a little concern at this point in time would be that Wood 5th grade, at the 1 to 26. And we will continue to monitor that. I will entertain any questions about the elementary projected ratios. Yes, sir.
The FTEs that are assigned to schools that are only walking the halls and not teaching in class, do they figure into this ratio?
No,
Not at all. Thank you, ma'am.
it's a core.
Thank you.
Any questions? Okay. At this point in time, we'll present to you the middle school projected ratios. Now to your question, you don't see all of the middle school nets here, Ms. Kessler, because some of those positions are the ones that we're adding, if that should make sense. So there's Busby, Fulmer, Northside. As well as Pine Ridge on the back. And again, there will be other nets from the middle schools, they're just not reflected in the data. We have Airport High School. We're netting a math there. And BC High School, we're netting a physical education. And at this time, I will entertain any questions about the numbers that are been presented to you this evening.
I do have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
And I understand high school is a little bit different when you're looking at different positions, but I mean, I recognize when you're basically just looking at overall numbers, I see where if you have 85 teachers, like at airport and your airport numbers, and you take away one because you dropped 39 kids, that's like you lost a class or whatever, I guess. But then if you go up to the BC numbers, it looks as if we're dropping a teacher as well, so both are losing teachers, but BC actually went up 80 kids.
What we did was,
so how does that work?
Well, we talked to the high schools about current scheduling and where classes weren't heavily scheduled to see what we could add. Not necessarily in looking at a ratio like the elementary school. In terms of how many kids do you have scheduled for PE, or how many kids do you have scheduled for foreign language, so forth and so on. And that's where they felt like they could give up the net.
And in addition to that, Ms. Brown, PE numbers are through the state, they have a higher allowable teacher-pupil ratio. But basically what we've tried to do is be real close on the numbers and the jobs that we filled in order to balance the budget where we are. And overall, that's the 15 unfilled positions that Kelly talked about. With the best knowledge that we have, that's what it would take to give you the budget that we planned.
And I trust your judgment on that. I'm sure you work closely with your high school principals. But I mean, if you're just looking at the balance of the numbers, you know, there's nearly 200 more kids at airport, 13 more teachers. That averages out to about 15 kids a teacher. I was just wondering how are y'all just doing that solely based on what courses are being offered at those schools and how those are signed up? I mean, are we getting some good input from?
Well, we sit with the administration at all of the schools and talk about these numbers. And when we present them, or before we present them to you all, we send them out to get feedback to ensure that this is something that we can all live with. So it's not like we're arbitrarily.
Now, I guess what I'm asking is, I can understand if the PE classes are, like for instance, you said you cut a PE teacher. So I understand all that. I love PE teachers, Ms. Kessler.
You better say
that. But my point is if you had too many PE teachers, or so to speak, or they didn't have enough classes to teach or whatever, but you got how many kids over here in an English class or an algebra class or whatever. I mean, to me, a teacher isn't just, a teacher slot shouldn't just be considered a PE slot, an English slot, a math slot, a social studies slot. I mean, if the school needs a teacher in another area,
right.
So are all of our numbers looking good across the board at both of our high schools, and these, particularly my worry, Algebra 1, end of course testing type classes that sometimes tend to get way overloaded. And when we're cutting a teacher from each school, regardless of what the subject is, if we're high in individual numbers in some of those end of course classes, I worry about maybe we could, it's consideration. But I do understand we're balancing a budget, but I have to,
I understand that.
I have to go on record raising the concern.
And to our knowledge, our classes are balanced pretty good. We're not aware of anything that's imbalanced or unbalanced, I should say. And Joni and I look at the numbers quite often because Dr. James asks us questions about the numbers all the time. So we haven't seen anything out of proportion that would cause us any concern. Now, if there's something in particular you would like us to look at, we can certainly do that.
What areas of our area are losing population? One is Brooklyn Casey rising, one is the airport falling. Is it an area that's being developed that's bringing in more students, or?
It's sometimes, like for example, when Gray opened, we saw an influx from airport to, so it just depends on what's going on in the area. But oftentimes those kids that leave, they come back.
On your projections here, you had like 200 juniors in the BC class. How did it jump at 300? Is that offsetting the teachers there too?
Mr. Hinton has the historical information on that, so I'm going to jump in on.
There are some kids that are sitting as juniors right now that will continue to be juniors next year. There are some seniors right now that will really are juniors right now. It is a moving target. So you have, and you look at the, you look also at the 10th grade they're coming from. That number will change, but I look back at what we've done in the past. I go back at least 10 years on it.
Madam Chair, every year I keep saying this, and every year I get told that everybody's teaching and everybody's working, but I go into the schools and every year I see FTEs doing not even signed classes, much less a full load. AAs that aren't teaching any classes, and that salary is a big part of our budget. I would think that we would want to maximize and make sure that everybody's teaching, and I want those PE teachers to teach too, don't get me wrong. But it is bothersome to me for us to ask some teachers to actually teach, and they get their contracts, and somebody else gets a contract, and they walk class. I just think there's got to be an equation there that it's more balanced.
Thank you, Ms. Kiss. Anything else? Any further questions? Thank you, Mary. Okay, next we'll go to finance. I'll turn that over to Ms. Richardson.
Thank you again. I have before you the April financials. First, the revenue. We're collecting almost 96, a little over 96% of our property taxes, so we're in line there to at least meet that. Where we're down again is with our EFA. It's down about $300,000 due to the loss of students that we had this year. Otherwise, everything is trending pretty nicely on revenue. I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have on that. If nothing, we'll go to expenditures. Happy to answer any questions you have here also. If you have no questions, the next page is the referendum expenditures to date through April, and be happy again to answer any questions you have on that. nothing. The next thing is the budget update, and we've pretty much gone over the budget update, so that concludes my report in financials.
Any questions? If no questions, the financial reports will stand approved as submitted. All right, next we move to administrative student services construction update.
Mr. Cougar has prepared you a construction update. I'm sure he would be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Ms. Kessler?
I do have a question about the vocational funds that came in to reimburse for the fire damages. It says here that you're going to finalize. I've been told that as you go along in and and restoring that area, that if the funds that were awarded doesn't sufficiently cover the cost of recovery, that our financial assistant person knows to file for additional funds. Is that correct?
Say that last part again.
If we go along in the process of refurbishing that facility and the funds that was awarded is sufficient to put the building back in standard, to the standard it was, that additional funds can be, so how can it be finalized?
I've been working with the insurance company for over a year now, trying to determine exactly what we can get. And we basically made an appeal to them, and I was exchanging emails as late as today. But what you're saying,
I was told specifically that Kelly Richardson knows that she can apply for more funds. But if you don't,
You talking about for the fire, the
Yes, ma'am.
damages?
Yes, ma'am.
It's not really an application process. It's the adjuster came out and as Don mentioned, he's been going back and forth and with the contractor also. But I'm not aware of applying for any additional funds. I'll be happy to follow up with the insurance company though and see what they may be talking about. But I know they've been trying to finalize just this week. Actually, I've been speaking with them on just working through what those, what that is. But we, I think we reported that back last year. That final amount was around, I don't think you remember the amount, $400-something thousand.
we've gotten up to a little over 500,000, and we're trying. We contract construction was willing to come in and help us to do further assessment, more detailed assessment, and there's about a $200,000 difference in what contract construction estimates that it would take to repair the facility versus what the insurance adjuster came out to do. So we're debating right now, trying to resolve that issue, and that's why it's taken so long. Is that I haven't been willing to accept $200,000 difference, and so far they haven't been willing to make that up. But we are going to get to a point where we're going to have to settle something, because if it goes beyond, I think, February 2019, then we kind of run out of time. So, and the fact that we want to go ahead and try to do some work on this facility soon, we're trying to get that resolved as best we can.
Who is the insurance?
School board's insurance. Is that Kim that you spoke with?
Someone.
I'll check up on that and see exactly what she's talking about.
Has there been resolution for the HVAC? It's Casey.
We're still working on that. It basically continues to be, it's a pretty complex system, but it's not unusual when you have a new system that you have to work out the bugs. And we think we've narrowed it down now to where that we need some additional electronic controls, basically.
Thank you.
Are we getting you close from security for our airport on the fences that's failed and doors? That was a hot conversation at the School Improvement Council the other night.
Yeah, and we realize that, and we've been, airport is going to be one of our most difficult campuses to secure. And as you're aware, we're kind of in a debate right now with the security fencing that we put up. is not going to work. So we're debating right now with that firm that designed that. But, unfortunately, to do it right, there's a good bit of expense. You have to basically enclose all of those breezeways, and then you get into egress issues. So, as you know, it's difficult sometimes to go back into an existing building like this and make it so that it checks every box. And that's what we're having difficulty right now. The architect has been working on it, and he thinks he has something that OSF will approve, but we've got to go through that approval process. And we were scheduled to meet with them on some of our projects. Was that this morning, Mr. Cooper, I think?
Yes, sir.
It has been postponed and rescheduled, I think, to Thursday. And we're going to get as many projects on the table as we can when we sit down with them on tabletop discussion. But I don't know if we'll be able to get to this one or not.
All right. Any other questions? All right. Next item is human resources, and we have no report, Dr. Cooper. Okay.
Yes, I'd like to make a comment. If Mr. Sims and any of the Pine View personnel are here, I'd like them to please stand. Pine View, anybody here from Pine View? I'm sorry they're not here because I'd like to congratulate them on an excellent 50th anniversary. They did an awesome job. I'm just sorry they weren't here to be recognized because it was wonderful, well received by the community, and a great many people came out. Refreshments were awesome. Displays were something spectacular. And so, see them, let them know, please. Thank you.
Next item is executive session.
Madam Chair, I make a motion, the Board of Trustees enter closed session for hearing on a student